of a Russian Grand Prix today in 2021, Lewis Hamilton has achieved win number 100. Congratulations, Lewis. It's been a long time coming. I mean, your most recent win before today was, of course, the British Grand Prix with that controversial collision with Max Verstappen on the first lap. But today, you did it fair and square. You didn't get involved in any sort of questionable wheel-to-wheel antics, but you did profit from a poor pit strategy decision from another team. But nonetheless, the very best are always there, ready to pick up those wins when they come to them. And you've now done that 100 times in your career. You are the first ever race winner Centurion in this sport. What an achievement. I know some will say, well, we have more racers these days, back in the day there was only 16, 17 racers when the likes of Senna and Schumacher were around. These days we have at least 20 odd races a season. I know some would take it away from him because of that, but you take them when they come, and Hamilton has stretched out his longevity long enough to take the win. I will give him 8.5 out of 10 though, because yesterday his qualifying was quite poor. He broke his front wing when he came into the pit lane in Q3 and qualified down in P4. And then in the race today, he made a poor start, got stuck behind Daniel Ricciardo for far too long. But having said that, though, his pace in the second half of the race was fantastic. And ultimately, the reason why Lando Norris stayed out was because Lando knew that if he pitted, it would have been a very good chance that he probably would have been jumped by Hamilton anyway through the undercut, overcut, whatever will have happened. But, got to give Hamilton off. He put pressure on Lando Norris when it counted. I know some will say lucky Lewis again, but the fact of the matter is, the best make their own luck, and Lewis made his own luck today, so well done. Second place, 53 seconds behind, was Max Verstappen, 8.5 out of 10. He moaned a lot about his tyres today, so I've got to say, really kind of struggled with tyre management, and I kind of don't think he drove as well as I think he could have done. So for him, it's also 8.5 out of 10. Had to start at the back of the grid. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh with Max, but the fact of the matter is, I do think he didn't quite cut through traffic as quickly as he usually does. I have to say, today he just seemed to struggle with the car an awful lot. I don't think the Red Bull was the best package around here this weekend. But then again, of course, it's a power track, so it surely should suit Mercedes and McLaren more than Red Bull. But nonetheless, a very solid performance. I think Lewis Hamilton retakes the championship lead, but he only retakes it by about 2 or 3 points, which is, well, quite frankly, the best damage limitation I think Red Bull could have done today. Lewis Hamilton is back in front by just 2 points now. Of course, Mercedes are keep hold of the championship lead. Third place, Carlos Sainz. What did I give him? 9 out of 10. Did very well to grab the lead at the start of the race, but inevitably the Ferrari's lack of ability to look after tyres affects him throughout the race. How do I say this? I know I'm going to be really harsh here, but this year I think Ferrari have blew 3 possible race victories this season. Monaco, when Leclerc crashed down with his qualifying lap after taking pole, very unnecessary. And then, of course, he had that gearbox problem, so that's a reliability gremlin as well. Britain, Leclerc ran off the road with about 2 or 3 laps to go. I know his tyres were gone, but the fact of the matter is, had he just held on for another 2 laps, he could have sneaked a very good surprise win there. And then, of course, today, I know the pace of the Cup Ferrari was not there, but we have seen the likes of Mercedes and Red Bull win races when the race pace is lacking, or when they've had a setback. We've still seen them win the race, like, with Hamilton today. Hamilton this weekend, having won the race despite an awful qualifying and struggling the first part of the race being stuck behind Ricciardo, but he won the race. So, gotta be really harsh on Ferrari today. And by the way, I will give the race 10 out of 10 because that's the only 10 I'm going to give. It's the race itself, not any driver, for those wondering. Fourth place, Daniel Ricciardo, 7 out of 10. once again overshadowed by his teammate Lando Norris. I know he then was forced to play as a blocker for his teammate later on. Was it when a lot of the cars went and pitted, such as Sainz and Perez and Stroll, and it did lose him time. But I have to say though, his pace was a bit meh throughout the whole race, and yeah, he had that dodgy pit stop where he lost about 5 seconds. But I do feel like, before Lando Norris had all his shenanigans, I mean, you gotta realise Ricciardo was about over a minute behind Norris before the rain hit the track. Really lacking pace all round yet again. And, yeah, it's a solid result, but Daniel Ricciardo's race pace is, what he did at Monza was very good, but that felt like a one-off, and I have to say he really does need to start improving again. 5th place, Valtteri Bottas, 7 out of 10. Got given an engine penalty deliberately by his team in a blatant attempt to block Max Verstappen. It only lasted 6 laps before Max Verstappen flew past him. What the hell were Total Wolff and James Addison playing out, thinking that Bottas was going to hold Max Verstappen up for lap after lap? Like, considering he's been like the number 2 for such a long time at Mercedes, I'm not surprised he just got fed up and gave up towards the end of the race. I mean, yes, I know Total Wolff came on the radio later on saying, come on, Valtteri, let's get these points, but seriously, man, like, how can you expect Valtteri to have any motivation when you just send him to the back of the grid like that? Seriously. And I really do feel sorry for Valtteri. Yes, I've slagged him off many times, but today was just a step too far from Mercedes, and they got massively lucky with Lando Norris's failure decision not to pit when he should have done. And, you could argue Total Wolff really is a clown when you think about the fact that he decided to, sell engines to McLaren. When Lando Norris stayed out and pitted, not stayed out, if Lando Norris had pitted at the same time as Lewis Hamilton did, and had Lando Norris kept his car on track and not spun off and done anything stupid and just kept his nose in front of Lewis after pitting, that could have been, 4 points down the drain, because of course that would have meant that Hamilton would have been second, Verstappen would have been third, and Verstappen would still be leading his championship by 2 points, but thanks to Norris's poor decision making, Mercedes got off the hook today. 6th place, Fernando Alonso, 9 out of 10. Solid race pace. Was running in the podium positions for quite a while. Just all round very, very solid and impressive once again from the double world champion. Alonso has just been fantastic since in the second half of this season. I've got to give him huge credit. 7th place, yes, I know the timing sheet say it's Lando Norris, but because Lando Norris cut across the pit lane because he was still on slicks, and it was absolutely it was just loads of rain everywhere, and I have to say, you could argue he did enter the pit lane dangerously because of that. 7th place for me is going to be Kimi Raikkonen if I was the race steward, because of course I'd give Lando Norris 5-second time penalty. I know it's harsh, but the rules are the rules. I mean, Kimi Raikkonen, 9 out of 10, hasn't actually done a proper full race distance of any sort in anger for 2 months, and he comes back and he picks up P7, could be P8 depending on where the penalty goes, but for me, Kimi Raikkonen out-qualified Giovinazzi by 1.5 seconds. Okay, yes, I know Giovinazzi had problems with his brakes, but the fact of the matter is, Kimi Raikkonen was just fantastic. Ran in the points for, dipping in and out of the points when he could. And the fact of the matter is, he pitted early for the Inter tyres, and when the field were all struggling in the rain, he passed them all, and he banked at least 4 or 6 points. I know Alfa Romeo are probably going to finish P9 in the championship anyway, but for me, Kimi Raikkonen is, hopefully, if he keeps putting in performances like this, I hope he gets to end his career on a high, because the guy is my childhood hero. He really does mean everything to me. Commend the hour, commend the Kimi. P7 for number 7. I hope it's that, but I could be wrong. P8, driver of the day, Lando Norris, 9.5 out of 10. Yes, I know he made a bad decision to stay out when it was clearly increasing in terms of the rain, but I feel sorry because Lando Norris was absolutely stellar throughout this race. Yeah, he made a bad... funny thing is that he made a great stop, but because of the slipstream going down to the first braking zone, since of course the run down to turn 2 is ridiculously long from the start finish straight. Carlos Sainz, who had actually made a bad start, was able to get a toe and overtake Norris. But then, of course, Norris was able to overtake Carlos Sainz 20 laps in and controlled so much of the race. And when Lewis Hamilton came around, right until the rain, Lando Norris was peerless under pressure, imperious driving. He looked like a veteran out there. He actually looked like a veteran. But then, of course, when the rain actually came, he looked like a rookie. And he made a rookie error by staying out. And I'm gossing. I'm really sorry, Lando. But here's 9.5 out of 10. You're the moral victor today. And hopefully you learn a big lesson from today. 9th place, it's Sergio Perez. It's got to be 5 out of 10 for me. Just once again, another poor qualifying. Yeah, I know we looked good throughout the race, but, you know, to end up P9 behind Kimi Raikkonen, and yeah, he definitely will be finishing P9 behind Kimi. God, honestly, to think this guy has got a contract for next year at Red Bull is quite shocking, because at this point, he's not doing any better than what Alex Albon was doing at all. Okay, maybe, yeah, he's a bit more punchy and he's a bit more consistent, but there's not much else. The qualifying's just as bad. His race pace is just as average. Perez is really now plummeting down my driver rankings list for this season. 10th place, George Russell, another point for Williams. Pretty much as long as Russell keeps scoring points for Williams have pretty much got P8 in the championship sealed, and I'm not going to begrudge them because they've been a far better team than Alfa Romeo this year. 8 out of 10, qualified second, or was it third? It was third. Yet again, another amazing effort, but I have to say though, his race pace was a bit iffy. Although of course it is a Williams, but I have to say, once he pitted, he went straight back down to 13th, 14th place, and I was like, oh wow, I mean, all that holding all those cars up didn't exactly work out that well, and I have to say, you know, thanks to the rain and a bit of a lottery gamble towards the end, he did sneak a point, which is job well done. 11th place, and I know this is a bit unusual to be giving a driver who's finished in this position rejected today, but it's Lance Stroll! 5 out of 10. Qualified ahead of Vettel, did very well in qualifying yesterday, but today his racecraft was a mess. He squeezed Vettel towards the wall when Vettel was overtaking him and clearly had more pace. And then later on, there was an incident where he spun Gasly around. And, I mean, really, Lance Stroll's driving can be quite bad at times when he gets into close contact with the people. He can get pulled into a situation where he just starts, you know, going wheel to wheel for no good reason when he'd be better off backing out of it. And I have to say, you know, if he gets a penalty, I mean, I know he's the last driver on the lead lap, so even if he gets like a 25-second penalty, it won't affect him because Vettel actually got lapped. But I think because he can't be dropped down the race order, I think he might warrant a 5-place grid penalty for the next race because his conduct today was appallingly bad. But I'll give him 5 out of 10 because he did well in qualifying and he did look strong in the race until everything went all topsy-turvy in the last 15 laps. 12th place, Sebastian Vettel, 5 out of 10. I know it's harsh, but, you know, once again, Vettel's pace and racecraft itself wasn't that great. I really know I'm big harsh, but I always constantly now just feel like Sebastian Vettel could do better, but, you know, it is what it is. It's my opinion, and also will disagree, but I expect Vettel to be up there scoring points, but today, when you got the likes of Kimi Raikkonen and George Russell scoring points, it's kind of quite poor. 13th place, Pierre Gasly, 5 out of 10. No pace in that AlphaTauri at all. Gasly was stuck outside the top 10 for a lot of the race. I know he was running in the top 10 for a bit during the pit stop sequences, but in the second half of the race, he just struggled so much, and I don't really know what to say. Kind of harsh as well, but, considering how much higher I now my opinion of Gasly is now much higher than it used to be. Today was quite disappointing. 14th place, Esteban Ocon, 5 out of 10. He was outpacing Alonso earlier on this season, but now he's nowhere to be seen. Really poor, and I have to argue. I mean, it makes me wonder, with the likes of Oscar Piastri unable to find a seat in F1 next year, I mean, if Ocon doesn't improve in the next few races, I think Piastri could have a case for being hard done by, because Ocon's not doing anything to really impress right now at all. He's getting absolutely destroyed by a 40-year-old. Yes, I know that 40-year-old is a double world champion, but gotta get closer, especially when I've mentioned a certain Alfa Romeo driver and a certain Williams driver scoring points today. I know one's a world champion and the other one's a future world champion, but come on. 15th place, Charles Leclerc, 7 out of 10. I think he was on for a points finish, but of course, Ferrari's decision to keep him out when he was still pouring down with rain was just bizarre. I mean, I'll give Charles Leclerc 7 out of 10 because he did show a bit of decent racecraft today, but the final decision making was just strange from everyone involved. And like I said, Ferrari could have had 3 race wins this season. I know it's harsh, and you could also question the decision to change Leclerc's engine because of the fact he was getting old, and I think he had to replace it due to his Monaco crash and all that. But the fact of the matter is, he arguably could have won with Leclerc as well as Sainz. One of them could have won the race, but they didn't. 16th place, Antonio Giovinazzi, 5 out of 10. Now, I will say this, Antonio Giovinazzi had no radio after it broke on lap 1, meaning that he was forced to rely on the pit board to give him messages when to come in, when to stay out and all that, but, compared to Kimi Raikkonen, his pace all weekend just wasn't there, just nowhere near quick enough, and frankly, I do not expect to see Antonio Giovinazzi in Formula 1 next season. I know his qualifying performances have been fantastic throughout most of this season, apart from yesterday, but when your race pace is that poor, you're not F1 standards. I'm sorry, man. 17th place, Yuki Tsunoda, 5 out of 10. It's pretty safe to say Yuki Tsunoda has entered F1 at least a couple of years too early. Probably should have spent another year in F3. And then, of course, 2 years in Formula 2. But, of course, Honda wanted us to really fire into the hot seat. And it's not really working out for him because he's got no confidence at the moment. None at all. 18th place, Nikita Mazepin, 4 out of 10. Apparently, he was under investigation for breaching track limits. I mean, he's just a rubbish driver. 4 out of 10, I can't be arsed. And, of course, 19th place, 6 laps down. Apparently, I think he actually broke down towards the end. I mean, I'm actually going to give Nicholas Latifi 5 out of 10 because I didn't really see anything from him today. And I kind of just think it was just his standard fare. And of course, Mick Schumacher, the only retiree in the race, 5 out of 10. Didn't really see much from me either because they were just miles off the pace. If you enjoyed this race review, please like, subscribe to Crystal Racing, and I'll see you again next time.